Hello, welcome to San Francisco Weekly News. My name is Diane Wesley Smith. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about SB 50, SB, Senate Bill 50, authored by Senator Scott Weiner. What you see here is a picture of James Baldwin. James Baldwin described urban renewal as Negro removal. What we would add now, as history has shown us, that it is not only about color and removal, it is about socioeconomic class. Or let's say it's about economics, bottom line. And what that means is the removal of people of color and black people first. That's the only time black people come first. When it comes to discrimination, black people first. So, as James Baldwin said in 1963, James Baldwin was a civil rights activist. And as he said, San Francisco is engaging in something called urban renewal, which means Negro removal. It means moving Negroes out. So this was stated in 1963. How many of you remember redevelopment? How many of you remember Wilbur Hamilton? How many of you remember the ministers that led the redevelopment activity in San Francisco? How many of you remember the so-called leaders that sold out the community? Starting in Fillmore. SB 50 would intensify the process of not only Negro removal, which has actually been accomplished in San Francisco, because we are now less than 4% of the population. They say 5. As a community broker and an affordable housing specialist, I say to you that it's about 3.75. SB 50 would intensify the process of removing people of color from the cities. And it continues to displace existing workers and middle-class communities. That's what it will continue to do. It will carry on with the displacement, as we have seen throughout the state of California, particularly in San Francisco, which is what we're speaking primarily about today. However, I must mention that SB 50 Senate bill, it's the California Senate, so therefore this bill affects the state of California. And Los Angeles is weighing in heavily as well, because they are experiencing the same gentrification, the same urban removal, Negro removal, people of color removal. SB 50 is a California State Senate bill introduced by Senator Scott Weiner. Keeping his word, he strikes again. He introduces a new bill. It's modeled after last year's stall bill, SB 827, which hit the floor. It went dead when it was presented on the floor because it was so ridiculous. And what it basically did was letting housing developers override locally zoned neighborhood ordinances. Now, let me break that down. What that means is, in your community, you vote for what happens in your community. Hopefully you do. Not many people in San Francisco have actually done that in communities of color adequately, and that's why we have the gentrification. Let's be very clear. It didn't happen overnight. There were people that we were there when it happened. Did you get involved? Did you do anything? Well, you can still do something. It's not too late. But check yourself and check your conscience, because if you're not doing anything, if you're just talking about it and talking about it, you've never went to a meeting, you've never went to made a phone call, never passed out flyers, you've got to do something. It's up to you. But you see the results of doing nothing. What we have here, folks, is results of doing nothing. We have another Senate bill coming in that would deny the democratic process. Why do I say it would deny the democratic process? Let's go further. Weiner's latest proposal, SB 50, will allow developers to demolish homes and build large luxury apartments, structures almost anywhere in San Francisco and the state of California, because it's a California Senate bill. SB 50 presents a solution to the market rate lack of housing, but provides no real commitment to affordable housing. The city of San Francisco, actually you and me, are already footing the bill for safety services, schools, parks, and transit. Where will the money come from to handle the demands on the infrastructure? The infrastructure is where they're going to park, how much litter, the congestion, the more congestion, crowded transit, the demand for city services. And meanwhile, homelessness grows. Families and people cannot afford to pay rents that are out of sight. SB 50 hands planning control to real estate speculators. As I mentioned earlier, as a real estate professional, I say to you, yes, we could make money from that, but it's not the right thing to do. SB 50 is handing planning control to real estate speculators. Residents in the community cannot demand anything. So that's the democratic process. So they're going to take your right to have a say-so, have input, have influence over what happens in your community. Not even a decent, affordable housing percentage is required under SB 50. What is a decent, affordable housing percentage? A minimum of 30%. No less than 25. Absolutely. 25 is the bottom line. But decent would be 30. On site. Not an alternative site where they pay money and keep people still are at risk of losing their housing. They need affordable housing, 30% on site. SB 50 doesn't even touch it. You'll be powerless to halt demolitions. Now, speculators can reap. Speculators are the people that want to move everyone out that cannot afford a luxury apartment. They want to build, and then they invest. And they go over here and they tear it down, they build. You have to tear it down first. That's your demolition part of it. Tear it down, build luxury. Speculators can reap millions in profits while providing little or no affordable housing. This is the problem. Any bill that comes through that does not have adequate affordable housing is not acceptable. Where? How? Who is it for? It's not for you and me. So we shall not accept it. The majority of people will not accept SB 50 because there are no provisions in SB 50 for families, for young people, for the disabled. Retirees are becoming homeless every day. So they can't fix that. They have to eliminate that and come up with something else. Let's get another bill. The first bill, which was SB 827, died. Didn't work because it didn't work for you and me. It was ludicrous, ridiculous. No consideration for the working poor at all. SB 50, no consideration for the working poor. It needs to die. They need to come again. Because it would give greedy developers free rein to displace working class communities of color, except in Chinatown. Our Chinese brothers and sisters will not tolerate the invasion of their communities, and their leaders protect their interests and their communities. How about that? How about having elected officials that protect your interests, protect the community, do not sell out the community, aren't taking money, aren't proposing world-class developments when people in areas where people can't afford to pay rent? What does world-class bring? Nothing for you, unless you can afford a luxury apartment. Boy, we could really learn something by going back and looking at what the Chinese are doing as a unified group of people. Our roots, people of color, all of our roots came from unification. Our accomplishments were brought about through unification, a unified voice. It is challenging to find a unified voice when so many people are selling out and taking money because so much money is involved. So much money. People have sold their souls because they're taking money as the new God. That is their God, but it's not yours. And if it's not yours, this is your time to act. You don't have to be powerless anymore, because otherwise you're going to allow SB 50, which will, again, let me go back over this. Let me repeat. It would give greedy developers free rein to: 1. Displace working class communities of color. 2. Greedy developers will build luxury apartment towers without adequate affordable housing to address rising rents and homelessness, which is increasing daily because the rents are just too high. I don't have to tell you that, but I need to say that because we know this, but what are we going to do about this? Retirees, baby boomers are becoming homeless daily. So we have a special group of people here that are constantly being added to the homelessness numbers. These are voting people. So I, being a baby boomer, I call upon all baby boomers. Let's rock the vote, people. I don't care what they say. When your constituency, when David Chu, when Mayor Breed, when Shaman Walton, when your potential Theo Ellingtons, I mentioned Theo Ellington because I'm a little concerned. And we want to help educate Theo Ellington, who aspires for political office. We want to help him with his sensitivity to the needs of affordability in San Francisco and the displacement that world-class waterfront would bring, the displacement that a luxury tower on 3rd Street would bring at this time when there are no protections for the low income, the working class poor, for families, for the disabled, for seniors, and the elderly. SB 50 bans cities from rejecting. So banning cities, that's banning the democratic process. 3, SB 50 bans cities from rejecting big residential luxury developments containing only a small number of affordable units, if at all. 4, SB 50 has no commitment to low, or middle class working families. 5, SB 50 provides no housing protections for the most vulnerable of our communities: families, children, seniors, special needs, and the elderly. Some frequently asked questions. What is meant by more demolitions? SB 50 targets both single-family homes and apartments for demolition. If you're living in an apartment building that's rent-controlled, if you're living in an apartment building that has affordable rents of any sort, SB 50 is going to wipe all of that out, because your landlord, the owner, will be motivated to raise the rent. They're going to be motivated to sell that building so it can be demolished, so it can be replaced with luxury towers. Well, another question people wonder. So that's why the demolition piece of SB 50 is so threatening to affordable housing, because it will target the demolition of single-family homes and apartments and replacing single-family homes with luxury towers. Replacing apartment buildings with luxury apartment buildings. SB 50 will result, and someone asked, another frequently asked question is, will SB 50 result in unfair evictions? Yes. It unleashes a wave of evictions and displacement within our neighborhoods, enabled by SB 50's all but non-existent renter protections. Some ask, what is the density scale? They talk about density in SB 50. The density means how much construction is contained or how many units are contained within a certain area. SB 50 supports stack and pack. Stack and pack projects can usually, ignore real affordable housing, because stack and pack can fill an entire lot, immediately reducing parking, views, sunlight, trees, playgrounds, street parking, backyards. Very few of us have backyards, but those that do, They're not going to build them with stack and pack. Stack and pack that, and there's no provision for safe places for children to play. In stack and pack is a great concept if it were affordable. Stack and pack would be a great concept if it dealt with the infrastructure. When you increase the density and you increase the population, you must increase the services. We're in a housing crisis. We need more housing, yes, but we need the ability to afford the housing. So affordability is why SB 50 must fail. The lack of affordable housing, stack and pack, the lack of commitment to infrastructure. Who's going to pay for it? Stack and pack method of housing construction does not work for the community. The fact of the matter is families will be priced out due to high rents. Let me give you some phone numbers. But first, let's take a look at this. Open wide and say transit hub housing. Now look at that. I saw that. I said, okay, that's it. That is it. I'm laughing to keep from being upset, to keep from being hurt. See, I know real estate, and I could not in good conscience make a living on the misfortune of others. That's why I'm a community real estate broker. The reason I mention me is because there are many of us. I'm a realtor. I'm not a real estate agent. A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors, the California Association of Realtors, and the San Francisco Association of Realtors. Now, some of the things I don't agree with. For one, I don't agree with any legislation, and there are many of us realtors that feel the same way. So we don't support our membership whenever they are advocating housing construction that does not address affordable housing, that does not commit to providing affordable housing. SB 50 would shove luxury apartments down our throats. If you live anywhere near a transit hub, that's what they want to do. I mean, in San Francisco, basically, who doesn't? Right? Who doesn't? Because we're only 49 square miles, 7 miles in any direction. So you're pretty close to some sort of, if not a transit hub, you're close to transportation. So the hub, that's tricky, okay? Because let me say that the hub could be this much. It could be a small circle. It could be a large circle. What is the hub? Open wide. Please remember that picture, because that really shows, in my opinion, and others, because I didn't publish the that splendid cartoon that depicts exactly what SB 50 would mean to you and me. SB 50, it's your luxury if you can afford it, but it's our displacement because we cannot. SB 50, your luxury is our displacement. I mentioned earlier, have you made your voice heard? Have you ever went to a meeting? Have you done anything to help society, to help what's going on? Because it's going down, folks. And either you protect yourselves, you get with it and learn how to fight. Because if you don't, you keep coming home, going to work, coming home, sitting down, not going to these meetings, not standing up for the board of supervisors and telling them how you feel. This is why things are the way they are. Please understand that. Scott Weiner's phone number. Call him and tell him what you think. 415-557-1300. Scott Weiner. Call him and tell him what you think. 415-557-1300. Assemblyman David Chu. Call him. Tell him what you think. 415-557-3013. Assemblyman Phil Ting. Call him and tell him what you think. 557-2312. Phil Ting 557 415 557 2312. Tell him what you think. I spoke with Assemblyman David Chu at the town hall meeting, asking him why there is no commitment to affordable housing in SB 50. And it was at the joint town hall meeting that was held at Hastings College. And he stated that that would be addressed during the meeting, because I tried to have a sidebar with him out of all respect. I didn't want to put him on Front Street, so to speak. And, because, I'm notorious for that. And I had been. And I try not to be, if they don't give me a choice, and I know right from wrong, I cannot, I have to amplify the voices of those who are disadvantaged, who are not able to amplify their own voices. So he said that it would be addressed at the meeting. Well, sad to say, he did not want me to ask that question. So when it was my turn to speak, they went around the room and asked, raise your hand, and then they would call on you. So when it was my turn to speak, I literally was next. Literally, there was no announcement made. There was a person asking their question. He abruptly leaned over, and because there was still time, he abruptly leaned over to the moderator and said, make that the last question. So he told her that the current question was the last question. Clearly, under the details of the meeting that was publicized, it said, come and discuss California state budget and the pending legislation with State Senator Scott Weiner, Assemblyman David Chu, 17th Assembly District, which encompasses the eastern half of San Francisco, and Phil Ting, 19th Assembly District, which encompasses western San Francisco and North San Mateo. Bring any questions you may have on the state policies and learn about resources our offices can provide. This promised transparency did not exist. Wonder why? Clearly, there is still much work to be done before there is a housing bill that is acceptable, adequate, decent, and has integrity. But we will not be denied the democratic process. So call them, tell them what you think. Now is the time for all good people to take action on their own behalf. Do something, make a call, participate. Citizen participation is the cure for our housing crisis and the crisis that are prevalent in our society today. Or would you prefer the political representatives to handle that for you? Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.